Hey everybody, it's Dora from flippinghousesandpancakes.com, and I thought today I would talk a little bit about the similarities and differences in food customs between Ashkenazi Jews and Sephardi Jews. Okay, so today I thought that I would talk to you a little bit about some of the similarities and differences between the food customs at a Shiva for the Ashkenazi Jews and for the Sephardi Jews. Now, the reason that I thought about doing this is because my mother-in-law is currently sitting Shiva. She actually lost two sisters in the last month and has now had to sit Shiva 2 times this month. And our business partner lost his mother, and he is sitting Shiva as well. So been, unfortunately, to too many funerals and Shivas this month. It's been a little rough. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the food differences and similarities. And in this case, there's actually more differences than similarities. So let me first explain. The laws are going to all be the same. We follow all the same laws, right? The laws are from the Torah. We have all the same laws. We sit for 7 days. We tear our clothes at the funeral. And by we, I mean the person who is sitting Shiva, the person who is in mourning is going to tear their clothes. They're going to sit for 7 days. They're going to use a low chair if they're not, if they don't have an issue that prevents them from sitting in a low chair. Like if they're elderly, they might sit in a taller chair. All the laws are the same, but we also have a lot of customs. And some of those customs include food. And I thought, I've really noticed major differences. Of course, I come from an Ashkenazi background. My parents are Eastern European Jews. And my husband is Persian, so he has a Sephardi background. So I've definitely noticed a difference between an Ashkenazi Shiva, which is again the 7 days where they sit, and a Sephardi one, especially in terms of the food. Now, in terms of the similarities, we all do a few things. For example, both Ashkenazi and Sephardi Jews are going to eat an egg when they come in from the funeral. An egg, lentils, anything round the whole time of Shiva is an important symbolic food, because a round food suggests that the world keeps going. It's a circle of life, the cycle of life. It doesn't stop. Things will improve, things will move on even past this really hard moment in time. So we traditionally will eat an egg when we come back from the funeral. Both Ashkenazim and Sephardim will do that. And we'll also continue to eat round foods. But that's kind of where most of the similarities end in terms of food customs during Shiva. And it's like I feel it's very interesting to see the differences. And because a lot of times the differences are just like, oh, well, we do this and we do that. But these ones are like really, really different. And so I thought I would tell you the very different outlook on food when it comes to Shiva. So when I grew up Ashkenazi, and when we would go to a Shiva, my mother would always bring something to eat. It would be bread, cake, a platter of fruit, anything. As long as it was food, she would always make sure to bring food to the Shiva house, but it was not for her to eat. You would bring food or send food if you couldn't bring it yourself. You would bring or send food to the Shiva house to help feed the people who are sitting there, the mourners and their families. Because the mourners, it's hard to get up and make your own food. On the very first day, you shouldn't, and the rest of the days, it's just difficult. You're in mourning, you're in pain, you're struggling, and it's very hard to make your own food. And it's hard for the people close to you to make food as well, because they're also, even if they're not officially mourning, they're still obviously mourning and taking care of the person who is mourning. So it's traditional to bring food or send food to the people who are in mourning so that they have the nourishment they need to make it through those 7 days. And so they don't have to worry about finding food or buying food or going to the grocery store. People who are sitting Shiva can't go out shopping. They need to sit. So the people bring food as part of the process of being Menachem Avel, as part of the process of comforting them. Here's bread so that you have food to eat. Here's a cake so you have something sweet to eat to make you feel better. Here is some soup I made for you, or I ordered you a platter of bagels and tuna fish, round food again, so that you have something to nourish you when you're sitting here in pain and in mourning. And most Ashkenazim will bring or send food, but will absolutely not eat the food at the Shiva. That food is specifically designated for the people in mourning and their family. It's meant to give comfort and nourishment, and it's not meant for them to be, for them to eat it. And that's how I grew up. It was always like, yes, you go and you eat the very first day. You sit down and eat an egg, maybe with somebody who just came from the cemetery, but or maybe a meal right then that other people made and other people brought the food. The mourner is not making the food, but after that you don't eat the food there unless you're like immediate family members, because that food is meant for the person sitting Shiva. And that's that mentality. And when I grew up, that's how we did it. You would not eat their food. That food was for them. You brought them food. You made sure they had enough food. If they were hungry, you'd go get them something. You'd bring them a drink. That's what you would do when you go to see them. And you sit there and you talk with them, of course, about their family member who passed away. And you try to give them comfort as much as you can. In terms of food on the Sephardi side, and I don't know if all Sephardim do this. I do know that Persians do this. So, and of course, it probably is a little different based on each family. In my husband's family and in a lot of Persian Shivas that I have gone to, they really do the opposite. Sometimes people will send some food to make sure the family is eating, but not all the time. What actually happens is pretty much the opposite. The family of the person sitting Shiva, so in this case, it would be like me and my sister-in-law, we would go buy food. We would set up a table with fruits and nuts and cakes and pastries, and set up a table like that in the house. Not just for the person who's sitting Shiva, obviously they can eat that as well, but the main purpose of that food is actually to feed to the people who come to visit the person who's mourning. And the reason that they do that is not so much that they're hosting, although I think there's some of that as well. They do like to bring tea to you. Like my sister-in-law will go make tea and bring it to the people who have come to visit, make sure they're taken care of. But the main purpose is that the person in mourning wants you to make a bracha, a blessing on the food, and they usually have different types of food, so you can make different types of blessings because we make different ones on different foods. They want you to make a blessing, and it's called Le'ilui Nishmat, which means to raise the soul up. We know that the person who has passed away, they can't make any more brachos or blessings. They can't do any more good deeds, mitzvos. And so in order to give their soul an extra dose of goodness and lift their soul up even higher, we ask people to make a bracha or a blessing on the food, but with their memory in mind, right? To keep them in mind so that it helps raise their soul up in heaven. So instead of bringing food, like in an Ashkenazi one, where they would bring food and that food would be strictly for the family who is in mourning, for the people who are sitting Shiva and their immediate family members that are taking care of them. In the Sephardi, or in the Persian one at least, when people come to be menachem avol, when people come to sit at the Shiva and talk with the person who's in mourning, they're brought fruit, they're brought pastries, they're brought nuts, they're brought tea, and they're asked to make the brachos on all of those foods to help, to give some lift to the soul of the person who is gone. One other difference that you will find is that Sephardim will not eat meat during that whole 7 days, except for on Shabbos, because meat is considered kind of celebratory. We eat meat at any simcha, any happy occasion, and therefore we don't eat meat during the Shiva, except for, again, on Shabbos. Not going to eat meat, not going to drink wine. Those are celebratory. Ashkenazim will often eat meat. Not every family will do that, but a lot of Ashkenazim will eat meat during the Shiva. So that's one other food custom that is different. That difference doesn't feel as contradictory as the one I was just talking about between the bringing food or eating food at the Shiva. But it is one more difference. I guess I've been married for over 20 years now. Baruch Hashem, I've been married for over 20 years. And so I've been to a lot of Sephardi Shivas, unfortunately, and it still is a little strange to me when I go into one Shiva. I go to an Ashkenazi one, it makes more sense to me. The Sephardi one, I understand the ideas behind it, and that's what people really want, and it still feels a little strange as an Ashkenazi person to go in and eat the food at a Sephardi Shiva house. And I guess the best way to look at it is this. If you are an Ashkenazi person and you walk into a Sephardi Shiva to go comfort the person who is in mourning, and they ask you to make a bracha on a piece of food, you should do that. It will make them feel happy. It will give them some of that comfort that you're trying to give them. And if you're a Sephardi person and you go into an Ashkenazi house when they're sitting Shiva, you should not automatically take the food and make a bracha. You should realize maybe that Ashkenazim would probably find it horribly insulting that you are eating the food that was intended for the mourners. So that's just like an interesting way that the food customs, while usually relatively similar with like minor differences, these ones are like almost contradictory. So I just find it to be such an interesting difference in the way we deal with food. Even though there are a few similarities, like the round foods and things like that, there's also a huge amount of difference in the customs that we have for food at a Shiva. I hope you liked this little video, and if you did, I would be very happy to do a few more of these. There's definitely other moments in life and in the holidays during the year, Pesach and Rosh Hashanah. There's definitely differences in the food customs between Ashkenazim and Sephardim, and I would be happy to do more videos about that. Let me know if you like this concept, and if you like the video, please subscribe to my channel, hit the bell for notifications so you find out every time I upload a new video, and check out my website, flippinghouseandpancakes.com.